Nobody sat me down at 22 and said, hey, here's how money actually works. And I think that's true for most of us. You just figure it out. Slowly. Usually after something goes wrong, a missed payment, an empty account at the end of the month, that moment where you realize the number in your bank app doesn't match the life you thought you were building. These are the things I wish someone had told me earlier. Not a list of tips, just the truth. About money, about psychology, about why most of us repeat the same mistakes without even knowing it. Let's start from the beginning. When you get your first real paycheck, and I mean a real one, not a part-time job, but an actual salary, something happens in your brain. You feel wealthy, and so you act wealthy. New phone, better apartment. You start eating at places you used to only look at through the window. Nobody tells you that this feeling is a trap, because income is just what comes in. Wealth is what stays, and those two things have almost nothing to do with each other. I've seen people earning $6,000 a month who are one emergency away from disaster. And I've seen people earning $2,500 who are quietly, slowly, building something real. The difference isn't the number. It's what they do with it after it arrives. Here's something that happens to almost everyone, and almost no one talks about it. The moment your income increases, your spending increases to match it, automatically. Without a single conscious decision, you got a raise. Great. Now you have a slightly nicer car, a slightly bigger apartment, slightly more expensive habits that feel completely normal because everyone around you has them too. And at the end of the month, you feel exactly the same as before the raise. This is called lifestyle inflation. And it's not a character flaw. It's just what happens when nobody teaches you to pause before upgrading your life every time your income goes up. The people who actually build wealth, they let their income grow and keep their lifestyle almost identical for as long as they can stand it. It's boring. It works. I want you to imagine two people. One starts putting away $200 a month at 22. Nothing crazy. Just $200. The other waits until they're 40, when they're more stable, and starts putting away $1,000 a month. Who ends up with more? The first person. By a significant amount? Not because they're smarter or more disciplined, just because they started earlier. This is compound interest, and it doesn't care about your intentions. It doesn't care that you meant to start sooner. It just rewards whoever actually begins. The cruelest part of your 20s is that you have the one thing money can't buy: time. And most people spend it waiting until they feel ready. This one is uncomfortable, but it's probably the most important thing on this list. Your relationship with money didn't start when you got your first paycheck. It started when you were a kid, watching your parents, feeling the tension in the house at the end of the month, learning whether money was something safe or something scary, whether spending felt like relief or guilt. You carry all of that into adulthood, into every financial decision you make, even when you think you're being completely logical. If you grew up around scarcity, you might panic spend when you're stressed, or you might hoard money out of fear, unable to enjoy it even when it's there. Or you might self-sabotage right when things start going well, because deep down, having money doesn't feel like something that belongs to you. None of this means you're broken. It just means you have some programming to look at. And you can't change what you can't see. In your 20s, debt feels completely normal, because it is normal. Almost everyone has it. Student loans, credit card balances, a car payment that felt reasonable when you signed for it. And for a while, it's manageable. You make the minimum payments. Life goes on. But here's what the numbers don't show. Debt has a psychological weight that follows you everywhere. It's a low hum of stress in the background. It makes you stay in jobs you hate because you need the paycheck. It makes you say yes to things you don't want because you can't afford to say no. The lesson isn't never borrow money. Debt can be useful. The lesson is know exactly what it's costing you. Not just in interest, in freedom. Nobody's doing this on purpose. I want to be clear about that. But the people around you in your 20s have an enormous influence on your financial life. If everyone in your circle eats out 4 times a week, goes on expensive trips, buys things to feel better after a hard day, you will too. Not because you're weak, because that's just how humans work. We match the people around us. The ones who manage to build different habits are the ones who do it quietly. No lectures, no posts about frugality. They just make slightly different choices consistently without making it anyone else's business. It sounds small. Over a decade, it's everything. I know. Emergency fund sounds like the most boring topic in personal finance. Bear with me. Most people in their 20s see an emergency fund as money doing nothing, just sitting there. Not invested, not growing. Boring. And then something happens. A job disappears. A car breaks down. A medical bill arrives that you didn't see coming. And that boring money is suddenly the only reason your entire life doesn't fall apart in a single month. 3 to 6 months of expenses. That's it. That's the whole thing. That's the difference between a crisis and an inconvenience. Most people have a rough idea of where their money goes. They are wrong. Not slightly wrong. Significantly wrong. The subscriptions they forgot about, the small purchases that don't feel like real spending, the habits that are so automatic they don't even register as choices anymore. Here's what I'd suggest. Track everything for 1 month. Not to judge yourself, just to see. Because you cannot make good decisions with bad information. Most people who do this are genuinely shocked. And then they have something much more useful than motivation. They have data. There's this unspoken rule that talking about money is rude. Salaries are private. Financial struggles are embarrassing. You don't ask and you don't tell. I think this rule keeps a lot of people stuck because the people who already understand money, who grew up around it, who learned it early, they talk about it constantly with each other, with mentors, with anyone who knows more than they do. The silence mostly hurts the people who need the information most. Find one person who's further ahead than you financially. Buy them a coffee. Ask them how they think about money. That one conversation might be worth more than anything else on this list. Here's the thing about money that most money content never says out loud. You don't actually want money. You want what money makes possible. Security, the ability to choose how you spend your time, the option to leave things that drain you, time with people who matter. Money is just the tool. And a tool is useless without clarity on what you're building. The people who end their 20s in a genuinely good financial position, they're not always the highest earners. They're the ones who got clear early on what they were actually working toward, and then made decisions that pointed in that direction. And most people learn all of this the hard way, over years, sometimes over decades. You just got it in 10 minutes. What you do with it is up to you. If this is the kind of content that makes you think differently, subscribe. 1 video a week. No fluff. Just the stuff that actually matters about money and mindset. I'll see you in the next one.